The first cub screamed at nothing. Not at a sound. Not at a shadow. At silence. Its striped body snapped in 0G, paws clawing at empty air as if it could tear the quiet open. The nursery lights stayed steady. The station stayed calm. No sirens. No warnings. Only the cub, 4 months old, howling like it had just heard death whisper its name. Ilara Cade watched through the observation glass and kept her voice low. No one rushed them. A security officer scoffed. They are predators. They are babies, Ilara said. Behind the glass, the other 2 tiger cubs drifted closer, eyes huge, whiskers quivering. They hadn't properly slept in 2 days. They kept dozing for minutes, then jerking awake with the same terrified cry, like the station was tapping a knife against their skulls on a schedule. The handler's tablet shook in her hands. Food intake is down. They nip at the nutrient gel and spit it out. Their heart rates are peaking right before the wake events, Ilara finished, watching their ears. Every 14 minutes. Coincidence, security muttered. Predator sensitivity. Predator sensitivity keeps people alive, Ilara said, and floated into the nursery with slow, careful kicks. She dropped to their level and let her hands stay visible. Hey, little stripes. I'm here. The screaming cub turned, breathing too fast. Its eyes locked onto Ilara's face, then flicked past her, back to the bulkhead wall. The other 2 cubs stiffened. All 3 turned in perfect unison toward the same spot and cried together, low, shredded, wrong. Their translator collars stuttered. Move, now, burning, run. Static ate the rest. Security stepped forward with a med cart. Sedation. We end this before they bite someone. The handler hesitated. Sedation during an adrenaline spike can crash them. Ilara, security warned, don't interfere. Ilara didn't raise her voice. You sedate them, you silence the only warning we've got. A beat of tense quiet. Then the cubs pushed off together and shot down the corridor like they decided to lead the only person who might understand. Stop them, security barked. Ilara didn't. She followed. The cubs moved like they knew the station's bones. They chose turns without hesitation, ears twitching at every junction. Ilara kept pace without chasing, smooth kicks, controlled momentum, because chasing turns fear into flight. She'd learned that the hard way years ago, back on a frontier transport, when a panicked rescue animal had nearly slammed itself to death against a hatch. Humans didn't win by being louder. They won by being steadier. A maintenance door, old, unmapped, hissed open when one cub slapped the panel. The cubs slipped through. Ilara followed before anyone could argue. Security shouted behind her. Dr. Cade. Unknown section. Ilara grabbed the rail and swung through. It's not unknown to them. The corridor beyond was older. Dim lights, scuffed paint, a deeper hum that made the bones in your jaw feel heavy. Dust floated in glittering motes. The air smelled faintly metallic, like old rain trapped in steel. Here, the cubs stopped crying. They listened. Ilara felt it then, a pressure pulse through the metal, too low to be sound, strong enough to raise gooseflesh. A beat. A pause. Another beat. You hear it, she whispered. The cub's ears flicked in time with the pulses, like tiny antennae tuned to a frequency the station no longer admitted existed. They reached an analog pressure door. The moment Ilara touched the wheel, the cubs screamed, urgency, not fear, then pressed their foreheads to the seam like they were begging the door to open faster. Security arrived with weapons half raised. Back away. Ilara didn't turn. Don't shock them. Not here. She spun the wheel. The door opened. The cubs sagged in relief, bodies trembling, then nudged Ilara forward. Inside was a forgotten ring, an abandoned predator evac deck from the station's earliest era. At its center stood a matte black tower with no lights, no siren, yet it pulsed, silent and violent. Ilara's wrist pad auto-synced to legacy code. The screen flashed red. Hull stress cascade, 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Ilara's throat tightened. She opened comms. Command: this is Dr. Ilara Cade. Old Predator alarm is active. 4 minutes to a hull stress cascade in Ring 6. Evacuate and isolate brace node C14. A voice answered, skeptical. Doctor, that system was decommissioned. It was forgotten, Ilara snapped. And it's screaming. The cubs growled low, toward the corridor. A station tech stepped into view. Badge, Maint 7. Too calm. Too clean. Ilara, he said softly, like he belonged here. You shouldn't be in this deck. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Why is the alarm active? Old systems glitch, he replied. Ilara watched his gaze flick to the tower. Not on a 14-minute rhythm. The pulse hit again, harder. The deck lights flickered once, as if the station flinched. The tech moved fast, reaching for the legacy port. Security shouted, "Stop!" The cubs launched, not to bite, but to block. One cub slammed between him and the tower. Another knocked the tool from his hand with a sharp paw strike. The smallest climbed his chest and shoved its forehead under his chin like a living warning, claws gripping fabric but not tearing. "Get it off," the tech rasped. Ilara caught the smallest cub by the scruff, firm, gentle, and pulled it against her suit. "Breathe," she murmured. The cub trembled, then pressed into her, heartbeat slowing against her ribs. Ilara looked up at the tech. "Why are you trying to silence it?" His calm cracked. "Because if the station panics, they shut us down. Audits. Seizures. I needed leverage." Ilara's voice turned ice. "So you made it bleed." She drifted past him and popped a wall panel the cubs had been listening to. Inside, the structural brace collar was warped, bolts half-sheared, tampered so time would finish the job. A clean cut disguised as wear. Ilara's gaze snapped back to the tech. "Sabotage." He didn't deny it. "You don't understand what they take from us when they inspect." "I understand bodies," Ilara said. "I understand gravity. And I understand that you almost killed every child on this ring." She opened comms again. "Command, brace node C14 is compromised by deliberate tampering. Lock maintenance sector. Send weld team, now." Security moved to restrain him. The tech jerked away and slammed his palm on an emergency panel. Gravity drop. Ring 6. The deck lurched into chaotic weightlessness. Loose tools drifted. Debris spun. The brace groaned like a giant bone cracking, the sound traveling through metal and teeth. Ilara's wrist pad flashed. 1 minute and 41 seconds. Security grabbed a handrail, eyes wide. "What do we do?" Ilara tore an emergency polymer foam canister from the wall. "We hold it until help arrives." The tech tried to slip through the drifting chaos toward the corridor. The cubs reacted first. One shoved a rolling tool cart into his path, blocking his line. Another slapped a door pad, timing it with the station's safety delay, so the transparent barrier half closed and pinned him behind it. Clean. Non-lethal. He slammed his palm against the barrier, trapped and furious. The smallest cub sat in front of the barrier and stared at him with wide predator eyes, like, "You don't get to run from what you broke." Ilara didn't waste time watching him fail. "Cubs, show me," she whispered. They moved instantly, 3 stripes in motion, leading her deeper into the brace tunnel, ears twitching with every pulse. The tunnel was narrow, lined with old conduits and emergency foam canisters. The silent alarm's pulse was louder here, still inaudible, but pounding through Ilara's bones like a second heartbeat. They reached the brace junction, a thick spine of metal with a cracked collar, bolts loosened by sabotage and stress. Ilara's pad screamed warnings. 1 minute and 3 seconds. No welding team can reach us in time, security said, voice strained. I know, Ilara replied. So we buy them time. She snapped the foam canister cap. In unstable 0G, the polymer didn't spray clean. It drifted in slow, stubborn clouds, threatening to coat everything except the crack. Ilara swore once, quietly, then guided the cloud with her forearms, pushing it toward the fracture. One cub pounced onto the brace collar and smeared polymer into the crack with kneading paws, like it was making a nest out of danger. Another pressed its small body against the collar to keep it aligned. The third wedged under the brace line, pushing upward with trembling legs as if refusal could become strength. Ilara's chest tightened. Hold, she whispered. Just hold. 41 seconds. The brace screamed. 28 seconds. The cubs shook, ears flat, eyes squeezed shut, still holding. Ilara packed layers into the fracture, sealed bolt channels, reinforced the collar in a thick, glistening band. 10 seconds. A final pulse rolled through the metal. Then the vibration softened. The brace settled. The countdown froze. Silence returned, real silence, like the station exhaling after 4 minutes of drowning. Ilara sagged, forehead touching the brace. Good. The cubs collapsed into a drifting pile of stripes and tails, breathing hard. They didn't cry now. They just stayed close, as if closeness itself was the reward. Over comms, command sounded shaken. Readings stabilized. Dr. Cade, you did it. Ilara looked down at the cubs. No, she said quietly. They did. Hours later, the medical bay glowed warm. Ilara sat on a bench with a thermal blanket around her shoulders. Her hands were smeared with dried polymer, knuckles aching from guiding foam against time. Beside her, the tiger cubs slept in a soft mesh cradle, an improvised floating nest made from restraint straps and thermal padding. It held them gently in 0G, keeping their bodies together so they wouldn't startle awake alone. They purred now. Low. Steady. Safe. A junior medic smiled, whispering, they're finally asleep. Ilara's eyes stung. They were never being difficult, she murmured. They were being brave. Commander Rise stepped in, exhaustion carved into his face. You disobeyed direct orders. Ilara didn't flinch. Yes. He stared at the sleeping cubs. And you saved the station. Ilara's voice stayed calm. They warned us first. We ignored them. Then we tried to sedate the warning. A Thornback delegate entered with 2 aides, crest lowered in an old sign of respect. Predator juveniles do not normally coordinate. They weren't coordinating to hunt, Ilara said. They coordinated to protect a home that isn't even their species. The delegate's eyes shifted to the mesh nest. Why did they choose you? Ilara didn't look away from the cubs. Because I listened like their fear meant something. The smallest cub stirred, blinked at her, and pressed its forehead into her knuckles through the mesh, checking she was still real. Ilara's throat tightened. I'm here. Commander Rise exhaled, the sound of a man letting go of pride. New protocol. Predator instinct alerts will be logged as early warnings. Human handlers assigned. No stun arcs in the nursery. Ever. The Thornback clicked approval. And the saboteur. Contained, Rise said. Alive. Regretting. Ilara leaned back, relief heavy and warm in her chest. A station survived because 3 babies heard a warning no one else could, and 1 human chose to follow them into the dark. She watched the cubs breathe. Quiet. Safe. Home. Ilara reached in, tucked a warm cloth under their paws, and the largest cub sighed, then, impossibly, curled its tail around the smallest like a promise. For the first time since arrival, the nursery felt peaceful enough to breathe. Subscribe for more HFY Sci-Fi stories from Survival Arena HFY. Like if your favorite moment was the Cubs blocking the saboteur. And comment your favorite scene, when they led Alara to the truth, or when they held the brace together.